Season 6 is finally here, and thus begins the grind for tier 100 on the brand new Battle Pass. I thought I'd put this together so you can fly up the tiers in the quickest way possible, whether you have the full Modern Warfare game with multiplayer, or whether you just have Warzone. I imagine this video will also be useful in the last few weeks of Season 6 when you may be scrambling around trying to quickly get up the Battle Pass tiers before the end of the season. Either way, you should find it helpful. Now just before I properly get into everything, I'll just mention that I did make a similar video to this last season, so there is some overlap with that video, but there are also a few more ways to tier up even quicker that I didn't include in that video. So if you have seen the previous one I made, don't worry, there's going to be plenty in here that you haven't heard before. And it's good to get a reminder of the key ways to boost you up those tiers. Let's start off by looking at how Battle Pass tiers actually work. They are based on two things: the amount of XP you earn and the amount of time you spend in-game. Roughly, it appears that for every minute you play, that amounts to about 1% of a Battle Pass tier, and every 1000 XP is also about 1%. Which doesn't sound like much at all, but add that up over the course of a match and you can really start to fly up tiers. Especially if you do a bunch of certain things in those matches. For example, in a 20-minute match, you'll get about 20% of a tier even if you don't do anything else in that game. But in Warzone, if you lasted 20 minutes, you'd be getting XP bonuses for outlasting a bunch of people. So we'll start with how to take on the Battle Pass tiers in multiplayer games before heading on to Warzone, but of course there's going to be plenty of overlap between the two. So longer game modes are good to get the time under your belt, but I honestly would advise staying away from game modes like Ground War, even though they are usually very long games. This is unless you can reliably get a good amount of kills in them, because the lobby times in between games are so fast these days that you're gonna actually be in games playing most of the time anyway. So you want to choose game modes that you do well at in terms of total score and kills. I'd recommend something like Hardpoint and Domination, where you can get plenty of XP from capturing objectives and kills as they're fast paced and often on smaller maps. Multiplayer is just generally quicker to tier up compared to just Warzone, and that's because XP is just easier to come by. One of the reasons for this is that old favourite of ours, Shipment, and to a lesser extent Shoot House. These tiny maps allow people of any ability to rack up massive amounts of XP really quickly and easily, and the best part is, they are almost always available to play as a 24/7 playlist. Now the rest of the video is inclusive for Warzone only players as well, so keep your ears peeled. So one of the answers seems to be to get more kills and win more games. Well, thanks for the invite, Sherlock. How obvious is that? It's obviously easier said than done. But you can do things to improve your chances of killing more people and winning more. In multiplayer, just use the best damn weapons on the game and don't mess around with the freaky stuff, just because you got a little bit bored. I know it's tempting, but honestly, fry some people up with an M4 or an MP5 or something, and give yourself the best chance possible. In Warzone, the same absolutely applies, but I also recommend to play in duos or squads with friends as often as you can. This way it's just easier and less risky to be more adventurous and push people and pick up kills for XP. Aside from the obvious getting kills and winning more, there's plenty we can be doing to advance the XP we get per match. One such way is to complete challenges and missions. I know a lot of people just gloss over this kind of thing because the rewards often aren't great, or maybe you are aware of them already, but are you aware at just how many different types of challenges there are on the game that give you big XP? So we have daily challenges and weekly challenges, which are often quite nice and easy. They give out decent XP, often along with calling cards and emblems and that kind of thing. Now keep an eye out on daily challenges each time you log on, whether you intend to do them or not, because on some occasions they give out tier skips for completing challenges, which you can then redeem on the home screen of the Battle Pass. Now I've actually only seen them a couple of times, so I'm not sure if they're going to be on Warzone daily challenges as well, but I can't really see why they wouldn't be. So like I say, they do seem quite rare, but absolutely keep an eye out for them. Along with daily challenges, we also have officer challenges. These vary in terms of what you have to complete, but they do span both Warzone and multiplayer. Many people don't actually realise these exist or just simply forget about them, but they're a great source of XP. The more you rank up, the more of these challenges you can actually unlock, which is great. They're usually quite easy to complete and not too taxing, so do take a look at them and try to do a couple in the next game you go in, whilst doing other challenges at the same time. That's the key to really flying up tiers and ranks, doing multiple challenges in one game. So you could complete your daily challenges and officer challenges along with, say, weapon challenges, which are just things like getting kills with certain weapons, then getting certain types of kills like headshots and crouching kills, and all that kind of thing. These of course rank up the weapon and unlock camos, but they do also yield ordinary XP that goes towards your rank and battle pass tier. Next up we've got missions. Multiplayer and Warzone have their own dedicated missions and are based on progression. So you get a little bit of XP along with calling cards, sprays, emblems and things like that for each mission you complete. Then when you complete the chunk of missions, you get an XP bonus and usually a pretty good reward. What I will say is the missions seem a little harder these days than they used to be when they were first introduced. And the XP giveouts aren't massive, so it's by no means an XP cow. So I actually wouldn't focus on these too much, but be mindful of them when you're going into games. For example, if you're popping into a multiplayer and Warzone match with your SMG, make sure you've got missions enabled that are based around using an SMG. So this sounds like really obvious advice, but just by being mindful of a few different challenges and missions, you can passively gain quite a lot of XP and boost your way up through the tiers. Finally, on the topic of challenges and missions, there are mastery challenges for both multiplayer and Warzone. Although these are a little longer to complete, it's worth keeping an eye on them as they give out big XP payouts, and many are tiered. Some are based on doing one big act in a game, like getting a throwing knife kill over 50 meters or blowing up a vehicle with 3 enemies in it with a C4, whilst others are based around wins. So they are not easy challenges by any means, but they are worth keeping in mind when you're in games though, as just one good move can rack up big progress for those tiers. The last piece of advice I have, which is useful for both multiplayer and Warzone, is to complete trials. These are mini-game challenges which are great for getting lots of XP in a short amount of time. Previously they were only available to full Modern Warfare game owners, but now free-to-play Warzone players can enjoy them too. If you haven't done already, you can even retrospectively do them for past seasons too, so there's lots of reasonably easy XP to pick up quickly. Okay, now on to ways to get your XP for the Battle Pass tiers in just Warzone. These are still great to have in mind even if you have multiplayer though, since let's face it, you're going to be heading onto Warzone at some point, so when you're in there, why not maximise the amount of XP per game you get? So straight off the bat we can do contracts, such as bounties, scavengers, most wanteds, and supply rooms, where you can get varying amounts of XP for completing them. The most wanted contracts offer up to 1,400 XP for completing them, but it does depend on whether you're in duos, trios or quads. Obviously these contracts vary in difficulty and there's different amounts of risk attached to each of them. For example, there's a reason most wanted contracts give out so much XP, and that's because you give your location to the hold down map. Me and my squad actually like to grab these most wanted contracts when we're all actually still alive, and you can set up in a building with only 1 or 2 entrances. No one expects a whole squad up there. They assume it's going to be some terrified loner hoping to get his teammates back. Then we wipe them out and get a load of XP and cash. I actually made a video on how most wanteds can increase your chances of winning games. I'll put it as a clickable card here and down in the description. In addition to these contracts, we also have contraband contracts, which can get you a bunch of XP, but obviously these are rarer and most importantly, riskier. So unless you're with a solid squad and you're sure you can complete it, I wouldn't bother, when you can just do standard contracts and complete them much easier. Now the good thing about completing contracts is that you get a bonus for each one you complete, so the more you do in one game, the more bonuses you get, which then gives you more standard XP, more weapon XP, and more cash in game to increase your chances of winning. Recon contracts and supply runs are great to do this, so they do offer slightly less XP reward than the others, but they are usually easier and you can do loads in a short amount of time if you have a vehicle with a trophy on it. Another great tip to boost your XP in-game on Warzone is to buy things from the shop. You're going to be doing this anyway by getting your loadout or self-revives and stuff, but there is a lot of XP offered up when buying stuff. So maybe be that one in your squad who collects the cash for the loadout drop by, and be sure to always utilise your cash and buy kill streaks and things at the shop. This is quite a sneaky way to boost XP and is often overlooked, so keep it in mind. Next up, there's intel missions, which give you a load of XP, and for these you don't even need to be good at the game, which is always quite nice. In case you don't know, these are a string of story missions that you complete by searching for intel in various parts of the map. Unfortunately, you can only do one segment per game, but they are well worth doing. You get varying levels of XP per segment you complete, from 2,500 XP to 5 to 10,000 XP, as well as a final reward for completing a bunch of them. Now if you haven't done them from Season 4 or 5 yet, then you can still do them all now in Season 6. Although you can't do the same string of intel missions in one game, you can progress different intel missions in the same game. So if you do have those Season 4 and 5 intel missions still to do, you are gonna absolutely fly up through the tiers initially with these. A good way of picking up a lot of kills and potentially completing your challenges or missions is to play Plunder. This mode allows you to spawn in with your weapons, and most importantly, you can respawn as well. So you're gonna be in this game for a while, which means a bunch of XP before you've even done anything, then you can get a whole load of kills for XP too. But really, I'd only recommend Plunder most for doing challenges and missions, unless you already play Plunder as your favourite game mode. Don't force yourself to play Plunder for the sole reason of going up tiers, because it isn't going to massively differ from Battle Royale Warzone. A final point to make is that all of this can be hurried along by enabling double XP tokens, and of course targeting these progression techniques at double XP and double tier XP weekends. And for the Warzone only players, keep an eye out for the free multiplayer weekends, because these are great ways to fly up ranks. Usually they pop up at the start of seasons and at the midway point, so be prepared. But that's all I have in this video. I hope it helps you get up those tiers quicker and unlock the great skins we have this season, or of course the new weapons, or even just get coins to buy the battle pass. If you did find the video helpful, give it a like, it really does help me out. And if you want to see more Call of Duty videos, why not subscribe or even become a member of the channel for exclusive perks. See ya!